board. And if I could have all of the advocates on my screen, please. Hello, good morning. So everyone's here. We just got the green light to get started. So I'm going to call the case of Marks versus Sunny's Rooftop Bar. My name is Judge Grimes. Scoring judges, I just want to remind you that you want to keep your audio and your video off throughout the entirety of the trial. Looks like everyone's done that already, so we're in good shape. And you should have your video set to hide all non-video participants. That means the only people on the screen right now should be the advocates and me. So can the attorneys please make their appearances?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Aja Moore, and I represent the plaintiff, Ethel Marks, here in today's case, alongside my co-counsel, Kayla Waddington, who will be helping me with screen sharing.
Appearances from the defense, Your Honor.
Please.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Ella Judd, counsel for the defendant, Sunny's Rooftop Bar. Today, I'm joined by my co-counsel, Lyra Packman.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, everyone. Do we have any pretrial matters to take up with the court?
Defense does, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't we start with the plaintiff? Plaintiff, do you have any pretrial matters?
Yes, Your Honor. Firstly, I would like to draw the court's attention to pretrial stipulations 14 and 16. Pretrial stipulation 14 states that Jessica Marks was born on January 20th, 2000, and stipulation 16 states that all pictures from the night in question here in today's case were taken on March 24th, 2019, thus making Jessica Marks 19 years old at the time of the incident.
So noted.
Also, I'd like to ask your preference for screen sharing. Would you like us to ask before we do it, or just let the record reflect that we're showing something on the screen?
Right. Once an exhibit has been admitted, you don't have to ask permission, but like you said, just indicate for the record what you're doing.
Also, I'd like to ask, could we show exhibits before, just so the witness can see constructively outside of the view of the jury?
Sure. So why don't we cross that bridge when we get there? I just prefer that you ask me to constructively display the exhibit so that you can lay the foundation, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yes, Your Honor. And also, I asked the court to invoke Rules 603 and 615, which is the constructive swearing in of witnesses and the constructive sequestration of witnesses, aside from the party representatives here in today's case.
Any objection, defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, then we will do that. What's next?
I have nothing further, Your Honor. And with that, the plaintiff is ready to proceed.
Wonderful. And defense, you said that you had some pretrial matters?
Yes, Your Honor. First, we'd like the court to note that exhibits 1 through 27 have been pre-marked for identification purposes, and we ask that they retain those labels regardless of the order that they're entered.
Sure, for the convenience of the court and counsel, I think that's best.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd also like to note that exhibits 1, 22, and 23 have been pre-admitted into evidence and can be used at any time.
Was that your understanding, plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so noted.
And
What's
Your
next?
Honor, with that, defense is ready to proceed.
Wonderful. Okay, plaintiff, do you have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Could you give me a moment to readjust my camera?
Of course.
May I proceed?
Whenever you're ready.
Common sense is seeing things as they are and doing things as they ought to be. May it please the court? Members of the jury, here in today's trial, you're going to hear about a person, a bar owner, who did not use their common sense. They did not do what they should have done. And as a result, Jessica Marks paid the ultimate price, her life. Jessica Marks had a bright future ahead of her. And On the night of March 24th, she had been visiting her best friend in California. She was planning to return home to Philadelphia the very next day. Yet, Ms. Marks never got that chance. That's where the defendant comes in. The defendant is a bar here in today's case, Sonny's Rooftop Bar. Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin went to Sonny's Rooftop Bar on March 24th, 2019. And despite the fact that both of them were 19 years old, they had no problem being served alcohol, and a lot of it. You're going to see a receipt here in today's trial, which shows that Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin's table were served 7 to 11 servings of alcohol in the 3 hours they were there. Now, members of the jury, bear in mind that Jessica Marks was around a 5 foot tall, 110-pound girl. Common sense will tell you here in today's trial that Jessica Marks should not have been served that much alcohol, but she was anyway. Now, members of the jury, you're going to hear today that Jessica Marks only made it 1,000 feet away from Sonny's Rooftop Bar before she crashed her car into a ravine. And you're going to hear that Jessica Marks's blood alcohol was 0.16, the legal limit for someone to operate a vehicle. Now, members of the jury, we have a burden here in today's case. Today, you're going to hear about a law known as the Dram Shop Act. The Dram Shop Act says that bar owners become liable for injuries sustained after over-serving an obviously intoxicated minor. Now, at the end of this trial, the judge here in today's case will issue you jury instructions, and you will be asked a simple question to determine whether or not Sonny's Rooftop Bar saw the signs of obvious intoxication and whether they ignored these signs. Common sense will tell you this is so, but the evidence in today's case will make that apparent. You're going to hear from Morgan Levin, who will tell you that Jessica was already showing signs of intoxication when she got to Sonny's Rooftop Bar, yet she was served. Then Jessica stumbled, fell down the stairs. She was served again. Then you will be shown a video which shows Jessica with slurred speech and acting with a loss of coordination. Yet even after this video was taken, Jessica was still served again. Now, members of the jury, at the end of this trial, I'm going to come before you and ask you once again to use your common sense to see that the defendant knew that Jessica Marks was obviously intoxicated. And when I do this, I will ask you to find the defendant liable for Jessica's death. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Do we have opening statements from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
The plaintiff just told you about the decisions made by the servers at Sonny's Bar on March 24th, 2019. Ms. Moore told you that the defendant didn't do what they should have done. And as a result, Jessica Marks was killed. But members of the jury, you'll learn today that the deadliest decision in this case was made hours before that night by Jessica Marks herself. Because before Miss Marks ever walked into that bar, she decided how the night was going to go. She planned on a night of drinking with her friend, and she was going to be driving home no matter how much she drank. She was always in the driver's seat. Now, Jessica Marks's death is a tragedy. And the fact that she made poor decisions that night certainly doesn't make it less so. But today, the plaintiff has the burden to prove their case by a preponderance of the evidence. Just showing that Sonny's Bar served Jessica Marks a lot of alcohol isn't enough to meet that burden. They must prove that the defendant knew Miss Marks was too drunk to have any more alcohol, that they served her anyway, and that caused her death. The evidence you hear today won't support their allegations because they won't be able to prove that the bartenders knew Miss Marks was intoxicated. Now, that's not the only reason you'll find that Sunny's bar isn't responsible. You're going to hear about something today called comparative negligence. Although it may be a little uncomfortable, but we're going to ask you to take a look at the decisions that Jessica Marks made that night and see if those decisions caused her death. If we show you more likely than not that her death was caused by her negligent decisions, then you can't hold Sunny's bar responsible for it. And here's how you'll see that she was in the driver's seat. One, you'll learn that she drove herself to that bar after she'd already been drinking. Two, she arrived at the bar and drank more. Over the course of almost 3 hours, she ordered herself drink after drink, wine, hard seltzers, beers, shots. And decision number 3, the most heartbreaking decision that she made. You'll learn that Miss Marks once again put herself in the driver's seat when she didn't have to. Her best friend tried to give her a ride home, but she refused. And just minutes later, Jessica Marks' car was at the bottom of a ravine. Members of the jury, at the end of this trial, the evidence will be clear. Jessica Marks was in the driver's seat in every way on March 24th. And although it may be difficult, we're going to ask you to look past the emotions that we all feel and examine the facts in this case under the law. And when you do, we'll ask you to find Sunny's bar not liable. Thank you.
All right, is the plaintiff ready to call its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Morgan Levin to the stand.
All right, Morgan Levin, you have been pre-sworn, and plaintiff, you are good to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Levin. Could you introduce yourself to the court?
Yeah, my name is Morgan Levin. I'm 21 now. I attend UCLA as a biology major, actually. Very hard.
All right, and Ms. Levin, could you tell us why you're here in court today?
I'm here because I observed the night that Jessica died, and I'm just here to talk about what I saw.
All right, and I'm sorry to make you relive this, Ms. Levin, but could you tell us how you came to be with Jessica the night she passed?
Yes, Jessica and I, we were best friends. So when we moved to college, well, I moved to college, we would visit each other during like breaks, and we wanted to see each other during spring break. So we got together, and she was staying for a week with me.
Did you and Jessica have anything planned for March 24th?
Yeah, we would tour around California a little bit. And after, we wanted to visit Sunny's rooftop bar on the 24th to end out the week.
Do you remember how you got to Sunny's?
Yes, I do. Jessica drove us to Sunny's rooftop bar.
At about what time was this, Miss Levin?
We arrived at the bar at 9 o'clock.
How did Jessica look when you arrived to the bar?
She seemed a little drunk, but it wasn't anything bad. She was just tipsy, really.
And Miss Levin, do you remember who served you that night?
I do. it was Sunny, the owner, actually.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Response, plaintiff?
Your Honor, we've already established that Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin went to Sunny's rooftop bar that night. That is the proper foundation in order to ask who served them when they went to this establishment.
Defense?
Your Honor, although we have heard that Miss Levin and Miss Marks went to that bar, we've heard no foundation as to how she would know the person's name who served her or how that person was the owner of the bar.
Okay, overruled.
You want me to ask you that question again, Miss Levin?
Yes,
Do you remember who served you at the bar?
yes, I do. It was Sunny, the owner of the bar.
And do you remember how many times you interacted with Sunny throughout the night?
Eight or 10 times.
How did Jessica look throughout the night?
As the night progressed, she started displaying more signs that she was becoming drunk.
What makes you say that, Miss Levin?
Well, she was beginning to slur her words. Her eyes were becoming bloodshot. Her face was becoming flushed to me. Everything that she displayed.
Do you have any photos or videos of Jessica from March 24th?
Yeah, I have a couple of photos actually. I'm an avid Yelp reviewer, so I took a couple of photos of the table, and I took a video of Jessica that night around 11 o'clock.
If I showed you a video that you took, you would recognize it?
Yes,
Miss Waddington, could you display Exhibit 10? Miss Levin, could you tell us which test's been placed on the screen?
yes. That's a video that I took of Jessica. I took it around 11. She posted it at like 11:11.
Oh, and Your Honor, I ask that this evidence be constructively outside of the view of the jury. Sorry, I forgot to ask.
So we will constructively dismiss the jury so that you can lay foundation with this exhibit. So that's granted.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Miss Levin, do you remember recording this video?
I do. I took it the night of March 24th, towards the end of the night.
Does it seem to be altered in any way?
No, looks the same from when I took it.
Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 10 into evidence.
Defense, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, the exhibit will be admitted.
Yes, Your Honor. And Miss Waddington, could you play the video for us?
We're at a bar. Hi, everyone. Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a silly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Now, Miss Levin, what do you observe about Jessica's behavior in this video?
Well, she wasn't making sense. And she was fumbling for her drinks. And she was slurring.
Thank you, Miss Levin. You can take that down now, Miss Waddington. Now, do you know if Sunny Mehta saw Jessica acting like this at any point during the night?
Yes, there was a point during the night where me and Jessica went to the bathroom together. And as we were going down the steps, she almost fell and face first into the ground, to the point where she had to grab onto like the railing, and then a bartender that was nearby. That was Sunny.
Did Sunny say anything when Jessica fell into her?
Yes, she said, "Whoa, this one may need to be cut off." But that was at 10 o'clock.
Could you add this to our timeline, Miss Waddington? And do you remember at about what time you left Sunny's?
Yes, I left Sunny's. Well, we left Sunny's around 11:45. It was almost about to close.
And I'd like to go back to the incident you just mentioned about Jessica falling on the stairs. Were you served any more drinks after this?
Yes, like I said, it was only 10 p.m. and we'd still been ordering at the table.
Did Sunny say anything to you when you were served these drinks?
Yes, around 11, he said that I hope this one's not driving.
And Miss Levin, you mentioned that you left at around 11:45. You mentioned that you left at around 11:45. Did Sunny say anything to you when you left?
No.
And Miss Levin, I hate to ask this, but what happened when you and Jessica left?
We crashed. Well, she crashed on the PCH and was calling her phone, but she wasn't picking up. She was dead.
Thank you, Miss Levin. I have no further questions.
Cross,
Yes, Your Honor.
proceed.
Good morning, Miss Levin.
Good morning.
Now, I want to start by talking about where the night of March 24th began. You got to the house where Miss Marks was staying at about 7 or 8 p.m. that night?
Yeah, yes, it was around 7 or 6. I went to her Airbnb because she couldn't stay in my tiny college dorm.
And after you got to that Airbnb, you both had some drinks, right?
Yes, we did. It was only like a glass or two of wine.
That's right. You remember Miss Marks having 1, maybe 2 glasses of wine?
Yes,
And after that, you left for Sunny's bar, right?
yes,
Now, you planned on drinking at that bar, right?
yes,
But Miss Marks didn't order an Uber to get there, did she?
no. She drove her rental.
That's right. Both of you got into her rental car.
Yes,
You got into the passenger seat.
yes, I was in the passenger seat. I wasn't driving that day.
That's right, because Miss Marks was in the driver's seat.
Yes, but at that time she was fine before she got there while she was driving.
Well, Miss Levin, I'm not asking how she was acting. Just asked if she was in the driver's seat on the way to Sunny's bar, and she was, right?
Yes,
Now I want to talk about some more decisions that Miss Marks made at the bar that night. Now, like you told us on direct examination, you both had some drinks there, right?
yes,
No, you didn't order any of those drinks for Miss Marks, did you?
no,
She ordered her own drinks,
yes,
and she chose to drink them.
yes,
Now, I also want to talk about a video that was played earlier on direct examination. Your Honor, permission to display what's in evidence as Exhibit 10?
You may.
Ms. Levin, do you recognize what's on screen?
yes, I do. Took that video.
That's right. Sunny Mehta didn't record that video, did she?
No,
And you don't remember Sunny Meta being anywhere nearby when that video was taken?
I don't remember it. No.
Well, no, you also told us about a couple things you remember Sunny Meta saying that night. But Miss Levin, you'd agree that your memory of that night, it's not perfect, right?
Well, no, it was more than a year ago. I don't expect it to be perfect.
And like you told us, you were drinking that night.
I was drinking a little. I had a glass of wine, a beer, and a shot.
Well, you were drinking enough that you felt the effects of that alcohol, right?
I felt buzzed that night, but I didn't feel like drunk, if that makes sense.
Well, you felt definitely buzzed, right?
Yes, I felt buzzed.
Miss Levin, you also weren't honest on the night of March 24th, were you?
I used a fake ID,
Well,
but
that's right, Miss Levin. You lied about your age.
yes,
And not only that, but you lied to the police that night, didn't you?
um, I don't recall what I said to the police, um, but I think I may have told them that I had a drink.
Well, Miss Levin, you actually told the police that you and Miss Marks hadn't been drinking at all that night.
Yeah, I did.
And that wasn't true.
No, I was very anxious. I had never been put into that situation before, and I was only 19. I was so shaken up about Jessica.
Miss Levin, I need to talk about the decisions that Miss Marks made towards the end of the evening. Now, you both left that bar at about 11:45, right?
Yes.
You called an Uber for yourself.
Well, yes.
Now, you called for that Uber because you didn't want to be in a car with Miss Marks in the driver's seat.
I didn't feel safe getting into a car, but I wanted her to come with me.
That's right. You begged her to come with you.
Yes, I did.
She said no.
She said no. I
And
was,
as you, Miss Levin, got into your Uber, you saw Miss Marks get into the driver's seat of her car.
yeah, Jessica wasn't making sense at all that night, and I just I couldn't.
Thank you, Miss Levin. Your Honor, I have nothing further.
Redirect.
None, Your Honor.
Okay, does, Ms. Levin, you are excused. Thank you. And plaintiff, do you have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor. With that, the plaintiff rests its case in chief.
Okay, do we need a break or are we ready to press on?
I'm ready to proceed.
Defense
Defense?
is all, Your Honor.
Wonderful. Then defense, you may call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Sunny Meta.
Hi, Sunny. You have been previously sworn, and defense, you may proceed.
Good morning, Miss Meta. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Good morning. My name is Sunny Mehta. I was the owner of Sunny's Rooftop Bar.
Well, Miss Meta, I want to get right to the point. Do you know why you're in court today?
Yes, I do. It's because I'm being sued because Jessica Marks came into my bar a few years ago, and then after she left, she died.
Do you remember what day that happened?
Yeah, it was March 24th, 2019.
Well, before we get into the details of that night, I want to talk about your qualifications as a bar owner. Do you know how to identify the signs of obvious intoxication?
Yeah, so part of, becoming a bar owner is that we have to go through some intense training. So through that training, I've gotten to know what some of the signs are, and through being a bar owner for this long, I know the signs.
And what are some of those signs?
So, I mean, it varies from person to person because different people exhibit their signs of intoxication differently, but it's usually like red, watery eyes, slurring of speech, a vacant gaze. Sometimes they like smell of alcohol, and usually like a loss of balance and difficulty walking.
Let's talk about whether or not Jessica Marks showed any of those signs on March 24th. Do you remember what time she arrived at your bar?
Yeah, so I think at around 9 p.m., her and her friend, Morgan Levin, they walked into the bar.
And as they walked into your bar, was Miss Marks showing any signs of intoxication like the ones you just told us about?
No, absolutely not. She looked totally sober to me.
Well, let's take a closer look at what Miss Marks did after she arrived at your bar. Did she and her friend order any alcoholic beverages from you?
Yeah, they were ordering throughout the night, both of them.
Well, I want to talk about how she was acting then. Specifically, I want to talk about a video that was played earlier. Miss Packman, could we get Exhibit 10 up on screen? Miss Meta, do you recognize this?
Yeah, this seems to be the video. Yeah, I do recognize this.
And have you watched this whole video?
I have, yes.
And do you know who that is in the video?
Yep, that's Jessica Marks.
Now, when you served Miss Marks that evening, was she acting the way that she did in this video?
No, absolutely not.
Well, Miss Meta, I want to be clear. As part of determining whether your customers are intoxicated, are you supposed to sit there and watch them the entire time they're at your bar?
No, I mean, I'm not a babysitter. I mean, over the years, through my training, I've gotten a good sense of how to gauge someone's like their sobriety. But no, I'm not their babysitter. I'm not there to watch them the whole time.
Well, when you did gauge Miss Marks's sobriety, did she show any signs of intoxication?
No, I never saw any of the signs of intoxication. She looked completely sober to me.
Well, Miss Meta, we heard Morgan Levin say in court today that at one point Jessica Marks stumbled down the stairs and you said we might need to cut this one off. How do you respond to that?
That did not happen. I mean, I'm not sure why Morgan would say that, but that never happened.
Let's take a look at the decisions that Miss Marks made at the end of the evening. Do you remember what time she and her friend left your bar?
Yeah, they left just before midnight, so I'd say like maybe sometime between like 11:45, somewhere around that. Yeah.
And did you know anything about how Miss Marks would be getting home?
Yeah, so because like Morgan looked a little tipsy, I thought that I would just ask them. So I spoke to them to make sure who was driving. Both of them. I spoke to both of them.
What did you say to them?
Well, I looked at Miss Marks and I made sure that her friend Morgan Levin was not driving. So I said, I hope this one's not driving, as I pointed to Morgan Levin.
And how did Miss Marks respond to that?
Well, Miss Marks assured me that Morgan would not be driving and it would be Jessica. So I guess she said, like, no way, I'm driving.
Well, after Miss Marks told you that she would be driving, did you see her leave your bar?
Yeah, so as part of protocol, it's important to me that I watch people walk down the stairs just because that also gives like a last check before they leave to make sure they're not like drunk or anything. And so I watched her walk down the stairs.
And as you watched Miss Marks walk down the stairs, did you see any intoxicated behavior from her?
No, I mean, to me, she seemed sober, and I've seen a lot of people walk down those stairs.
Miss Meta, did you ever see Miss Marks call for a taxi?
No,
Did you see her order an Uber on her phone?
no, I didn't.
Did you see her take an Uber with her friend, Morgan Levin?
No, I mean, she told me that she was going to be driving, and that's what she did.
Thank you, Miss Meta. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Cross?
Yes, Your Honor. May I have a second to readjust?
Of course.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mehta. I'd like to talk to you about some things you mentioned on your direct examination.
Of course.
Now, you said that you never saw any signs of obvious intoxication in Jessica Marks. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any of them because I'm a trained professional, and that night Jessica wasn't exhibiting any of the signs.
And I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about Jessica. You remember what she looks like, right?
Yeah,
She
and
was around 5 feet tall. Oh, sorry.
yeah, she seemed to be around 5 feet tall. I mean, obviously I didn't have like something to measure her, but yeah, she seemed around 5 feet tall.
She was roughly around 110 pounds.
Yeah, from what I could see, she seemed to be around 110 pounds. Like, once again, we don't measure people when they walk into our store.
So you'd agree with me that in general, Jessica Marks was a pretty small girl, right?
Yeah,
And as you said in your direct examination, in order to become a bar owner, you had to undergo some intense training, right?
certainly. Yeah.
So then you'd know that the recommended consumption of alcohol is 1 drink per hour. Isn't that right?
I mean, I've been through my training. I know what I'm doing.
Ms. Waddington, Your Honor, permission to display Exhibit 17.
Constructively outside the presence of the jury?
Yes.
Of course.
Now, Ms. Mehta, you recognize this as the receipt from the night of March 24th, correct?
Yeah, that seems like their receipt.
It says Sunny's Rooftop Bar at the top.
That's what my receipt looks like. Yep.
And this receipt doesn't seem to be altered in any way, does it?
No, it does not.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Any objection, defense?
Without objection, Your Honor.
Okay, Exhibit 17 is admitted.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Mehta, on this receipt, there's anywhere from 7 to 11 servings of alcohol. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that looks right.
And like you said in your direct examination, they got there at 9 o'clock and left around 11:40, right?
That sounds about right. Yep.
So these two girls were served 7 to 11 servings of alcohol in around 3 hours, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the amount of I mean, it varies from person to person how much they drink and how intoxicated they get. So
Well, Ms. Mehta, that's not what I asked. I just asked if this receipt implies that their table of two girls was served 7 to 11 servings of alcohol. That was a yes to my question?
yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about this receipt. On your direct examination, in your deposition, sorry, you said that their table had 2 orders of guac and chips. Isn't that right?
Yes.
But this receipt says that their table only had 1 order of guac and chips. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what was going on that night. Maybe we gave them an extra one. I don't remember.
Okay. Now, could we get Exhibit 14 on the screen? Outside of the view of the jury, of course, Your Honor.
You may.
Now, Ms. Mehta, you recognize this picture to be taken inside of your bar?
Yep, that looks like my bar. Or
And you were shown this picture during your deposition?
I believe I was, yes.
Does it seem to be altered in any way?
Nope.
Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd object under 901 best evidence.
Response, plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. Could you ask opposing counsel to clarify their objection?
Sure, do you want to explain, defense?
Of course, Your Honor. Your Honor, it's our contention this witness wasn't the one to take this photo, and we haven't heard that it is what it purports to be, if those drinks actually did belong to Miss Marks and Miss Levin, or when this photo was taken.
May I
Are you-
respond?
You may.
Your Honor, we just heard from Ms. Mehta that they were shown this video during their deposition. Also, these drinks are the ones that are on the receipt, with the exception of one drink, which is on the table.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
You may. Are you objecting to the authenticity of this exhibit, defense?
No, Your Honor, specifically that the exhibit actually is what the plaintiff is saying it is. We believe they're showing this exhibit to prove who drank what, or that they did have all of these drinks. And Your Honor, specifically that one drink, like opposing counsel just mentioned, it's not on that receipt. And this witness can't tell us if it actually belonged to them, or if either Miss Marks or Miss Levin had that drink.
Okay, I'm going to overrule the
May
objection.
I have one last response, Your Honor?
I
Okay,
don't.
may I proceed?
Yeah, I don't think that'll be necessary. I'm going to overrule the objection. And plaintiff, I will accept Exhibit 14.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Mehta, your bar served rum and cokes, didn't it?
Yes, they did. Very popular.
Typically with a straw and a lime.
Yeah, but we use that straw for other things too. But yeah, it was in the rum and coke too. Yep.
Now, if you take a look at this picture, you'll see that there's a drink with a straw and a lime in it. Isn't that right?
Yep, that appears to be a drink with a straw with a line in it. Yep.
And this drink isn't on the receipt I showed you a few moments ago either, is it?
I mean, no, but like I said, yeah, it wasn't.
All right, you can take that down now, Ms. Waddington. Now, I'd like to show you the video of Jessica Marks again. Could we get Exhibit 10 on the screen, which has already been entered into evidence?
You may.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Mehta, you were the only server on the rooftop that night. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but I had a lot of other customers. I mean, it wasn't a busy night, but there were certainly other people there. But yeah.
At any given time, there were only about 10 people on the rooftop.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And you were on the rooftop at all times except when you were running drinks or food. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so yeah, I went down occasionally to like the bar downstairs, but other than that, I was on the roof.
And you'd admittedly be concerned if you saw Jessica Marks acting like this. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I would be, but Jessica wasn't acting like this, so I didn't really see any reason to be concerned.
Well, Miss Mehta, that's not exactly what I asked. I asked that if admittedly you'd be concerned if you saw her acting like this. That was a yes.
I would be concerned, yes.
And Your Honor, could we display Exhibit 22, which has already been entered into evidence?
You may.
If you would draw your attention to the toxicology section, Ms. Mehta, you would see that when found at the scene of the accident, Jessica Marks's blood alcohol content was 0.16. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's what it looks like based on this report.
And just to be clear that we all heard you correctly earlier in today's trial, you saw no signs of obvious intoxication in Jessica Marks, did you?
I have intense training and I did not see any of the signs.
Thank you, Ms. Mehta. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
Ms. Mehta, opposing counsel just asked you about a video that was taken of Miss Marks that night. Were you present when that video was taken?
No, I'm not in the video. I wasn't around when that video was taken, so no, I wasn't.
Well, we also heard that the receipt implies 7 to 11 servings of alcohol. Did you actually see who drank what that night?
No, like I said, I'm not her babysitter. Like I was there, I was gauging her sobriety, but I didn't see who was drinking what.
Do you know if Miss Marks or her friend finished any of those drinks?
No, I mean I served them. I put the drinks on their table and I probably picked them up. I wasn't looking at who finished what.
Thank you, Miss Mehta. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you, defense. Your witness may be excused. Do you have any other further witnesses?
No, Your Honor. With that, the defense rests.
Okay, do we need a break or would we like to proceed to closings?
Could we have a brief break, Your Honor?
Sure, would you like 5 minutes?
That's fine.
Okay, we'll come back in 5 minutes. I'll see you back here at 12:56. Or I guess that's Eastern.
Yes, Your
time.
Honor.
It's Eastern time, but 5 minutes. Okay, looks like we're all back. Do we have closing arguments from the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can proceed.
May it please the court? Members of the jury, at the beginning of this trial, I talked to you about common sense. I told you that common sense is seeing things as they are and doing things as they ought to be. And in light of all of the facts we have heard here today about the night of March 24th, common sense tells us that there is only one person at fault here today. Now, members of the jury, the defense wants you to blame a 19-year-old girl for her own death. They want you to blame her because she got in the driver's seat. But members of the jury, what the defense didn't tell you was that Sunny Mehta gave her the keys to unsafe driving. Jessica Marks arrived to the bar already showing signs of intoxication, yet she was still served. She fell into the defendant on the stairs, yet she was still served. And even after the video you saw of Ms. Marks here today, she was even served after that. Now, members of the jury, also what the plaintiff did not tell you is that they have a response, is what the defense didn't tell you is that they have a responsibility. Bars have a responsibility to their patrons. That's why the Dram Shop Act exists. It says that bars become liable when they overserve an obviously intoxicated minor. Now let's think about the real world application of this law. Members of the jury, bartenders are among the soberest individuals in a bar at any given time. And they are also the ones with the most extensive knowledge as to the dangerous effects alcohol can have on the body. Now, members of the jury, of course, they should be held liable if a minor gets injured after leaving the restaurant intoxicated. But members of the jury, you heard from the defendant here today. They didn't make sure that this happened. Now, you also heard from Morgan Levin. Morgan Levin told you that Jessica Marks arrived to the bar intoxicated. She told you that Jessica Marks fell into the defendant, and the defendant continued to serve her. Now, members of the jury, common sense tells us that if someone is fall down drunk, they should not continue to be served. Jessica Marks was. You were also shown a video of Ms. Marks, which shows her with slurred speech and loss of coordination. And common sense tells us that there is no way the defendant didn't see or hear this video being recorded. She told you today during her cross-examination that she was the only bartender on the roof and that she was on the roof for the majority of the time. Common sense tells us that there is no way the defendant never saw Jessica acting like this. But we also showed you evidence which shows that the defendant wasn't entirely truthful in their deposition. In their deposition, they told you that all that Jessica had was that the drinks that were on the receipt. And let's take the defendant at their word for a moment. If you would take a look at the receipt on the screen right now, it shows 7 to 11 servings of alcohol. Now, you learn that Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin were only there for 3 hours. That means that Jessica Marks and Morgan Levin both would have been having twice the recommended serving of alcohol per hour every hour they were at Sunny's rooftop bar. But then we showed you this picture. This picture shows you a drink that wasn't on their receipt. We also heard from the defendant today that they had 2 orders of guac and chips, yet the receipt only shows 1. Members of the jury, common sense tells us that if they had a free order of guac and chips, and a free rum and coke, they had more free things than that. The defendant should have seen this, and the defendant should have cut Jessica Marks off. But the defendant did not do what they should have done. Now, members of the jury, I am here before you once again asking you to use your common sense to see that there is no way the defendant couldn't have seen the signs of obvious intoxication. Jessica Marks died with a blood alcohol content of 0.16. If anything is apparent, it is apparent that the defendant did not care about Jessica's safety or well-being. And I'm here before you asking to find the defendant liable for Jessica Marks's death. Thank you.
Thank you, plaintiff. Do we have a closing argument from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. From the moment that Jessica Marks got into the driver's seat, she knew that the servers at that bar wouldn't be able to watch her every move, every moment. She knew it was a risk to walk into a bar as a 19-year-old. But she also planned on getting away with it. She planned to drive herself to that bar. She planned to drink at the bar, and she planned to drive herself home, and that's what she did. She was always in the driver's seat. Well, the plaintiff has tried to present evidence to you today, telling you that Sonny's is responsible for the tragic decisions that Jessica Marks made that night. They told you that it's common sense that tells us that Jessica was intoxicated. It was so obvious. But members of the jury, how is Sonny Meta meant to know that Miss Marks is obviously drunk if it's not obvious? Miss Moore told you that Jessica Marks died with a blood alcohol content of 0.16, but the servers that night couldn't have known what her BAC was. The plaintiff had to do more than just tell you it was obvious. They had to prove it by a preponderance of the evidence. So what evidence did they present? A 30-second video. 30 seconds out of almost 3 hours of time. A video that literally captured 0.3% of Jessica's time at that bar. Not only that, but it was 30 seconds that my client wasn't even there to witness. How do we know that Miss Marks wasn't just playing it up for the camera? Members of the jury, the plaintiff wants you to assume that this 30 seconds tells you all you need to know about 3 hours. And that brings us to the testimony of Miss Marks's best friend, Morgan Levin. Now, our hearts go out to Miss Levin. Today couldn't have been easy for her. But as the ones deciding this case, members of the jury, you need to decide if Miss Levin's testimony is reliable. And she showed us on cross-examination today that it's not. Miss Levin admitted that she lied about her age on March 24th, and she admitted that she lied to the police about this very case. The plaintiff's so-called proof, it's problematic. Now, if you agree, if you decide that they failed to meet their burden, then that's as far as we need to go. Case closed. However, if you do find that the plaintiff has proved their case, then the judge will be asking you a second question, because we've raised an affirmative defense called comparative fault. Now, the question will be, was Jessica Marks's death caused in whole or in part by her own negligence? We've met our burden in that regard. But we've shown you that Jessica Marks was in that driver's seat from beginning to end on March 24th. And she made 3 careless decisions that cost her life. She drove, she drank, and she drove again. First, she drove. The plaintiff's own witness told you that before Miss Marks ever even stepped foot into that bar, she decided that she was okay with drinking and driving. After she'd already consumed 2 glasses of wine, she drove herself to that bar with the plan for a night of drinking. No designated driver, no Uber. She was always going to be in the driver's seat. Now, decision number 2. She drank. No one ordered for her. Nobody told her what to drink. Round after round, knowing that she would be getting in the driver's seat. And that brings us to her final decision, the fatal decision. Because members of the jury, the Uber was there. She didn't even have to call for it. Her best friend literally begged her to get into the Uber and leave her own car behind. But Miss Marks was in the driver's seat, and that's where she decided to stay. Members of the jury, this case was always about the choices of Jessica Marks. And that hurts. It feels better to take the plaintiff's route and try desperately to find something that someone else could have done. The plaintiff wants you to blame my clients for failing to step in when the truth is, they were never given any reason to step in. And so all you're left with, as much as it hurts to accept, are the choices of Jessica Marks. Her choices drove the events of that evening because she was always in the driver's seat. We ask you to find Sunny's bar not liable. Thank you.
Plaintiff, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
May I proceed?
You may. Yes, you may.
Members of the jury, a few moments ago, you just heard the defense try to blame a 19-year-old girl for her death again, because the signs weren't obvious. But members of the jury, the evidence I showed you here today, common sense tells you that they were. Now, Miss Judd just grossly understated the evidence I showed you here in today's case, but nothing can beat the defendant's words. The defendant said at 10 o'clock, we need to cut this one off. At 11 o'clock, they made the proclamation that they hoped Jessica wasn't driving. Now, members of the jury, this tells you that the signs were obvious because Sunny noticed them herself. And now, members of the jury, you also heard Ms. Judd talk about choices. But let's talk about the choices of the defendant herself. Members of the jury, Sunny's Rooftop Bar chose to serve Jessica throughout the entire night. And if you take a look at the receipt, they served her twice the recommended servings of alcohol. Even if they didn't see the signs, Sunny Mehta knew that Jessica was drunk. Find the defendant liable. Thank you. Your Honor, you're muted.
Thank you. Judges, please complete your ballots and click submit. I'll ask everyone to stay on the call until all of the ballots have been submitted, and then we'll do brief comments.